Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. An ageing population and a depleting workforce, warnings that social care will soon be on its knees.
We do the reviews with their social workers, and social workers just hold their hands up and say, I recognise this is costing more money, but we don't have it in the budget.
We hear what needs to be done to encourage people to work in care. Also tonight, a woman injured by falling debris at her child's primary school in Sheffield calls for more funding to make buildings safe. Tackling unsafe driving on one of our busiest motorways, the week-long operation to catch dangerous drivers on the M1. And could these be Olympians of the future? We meet the youngsters taking part in the National Junior Indoor Rowing Championships in Leeds.
And we've got some cold weather on the way next week. Before then, a quiet weekend. I'll be back towards the end of the programme with the very latest forecast.
Hello, thank you for sharing your Friday evening with us. Is social care in crisis? As more of us live longer, there's inevitably more people needing more care later in life, isn't there? But questions about whether the system is fit for purpose continue to be raised. Take a look at this. Analysis by Politics North shows that spending on social care is rising rapidly. A decade ago, councils across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire spent £2 billion per year on adult social care. Last year, that figure reached £3 billion. Public accounts show that 20 of the largest private care home providers operating in our region made a combined profit in the last 3 years of nearly £20 million. Many other providers didn't make a profit at all. But it's not just about funding. It's proving incredibly difficult to fill carers' vacancies. There are currently over 14,000 jobs available in our region, and it's a situation that led to the Chief Executive of Care England to warn that without intervention, the entire social care system will be on its knees. Phil Bodmer has been to a care home in Harrogate.
At the Emmaus Care Home in Harrogate, they refer to residents as family members. There are 22 here, looked after by a staff of 30.
Good morning, Annie.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
In common with much of the adult social care sector, finding recruits is challenging. Chrissy has worked in the industry for more than 2 decades and has run Emmaus House for the last 2 years.
It's a fantastic job. It's a great place to work, but every day brings its own challenges. The minute we have somebody ringing in sick for a shift, it can be very difficult to then try and backfill that shift in a speedy enough time to make the whole shift work for the people that live here and the people that work here. I'm finding it harder to recruit for people in the local area. We have adverts running, but the volume of applicants is definitely a lot less than it was pre-COVID times.
There are currently 14,000 vacancies in adult social care in our region. Raising pay might persuade more people to enter the profession, but funding care has proved a thorny issue for successive prime ministers. At the moment, only people with assets and savings worth less than £23,250 have their care costs paid for by the state.
Social care staff are paid a pittance for the skills which they bring every single day, the decision making that they have to make over somebody's life. And of course, what we are seeing are people leaving the sector, a 52% increase of the people leaving the sector just in this last year. We wouldn't have those vacancies if people were really valued.
The government says a record £7.5 billion is promised to social care over the next 2 years, the biggest funding increase in history. We are committed to addressing workforce pressures and supporting a more joined-up and patient-focused health and care system.
I meet with social workers regularly. We'll have somebody move into the care home and over a year their care needs will change, and we'll explain that we're putting more staffing in to support their needs for them to live well. We do the reviews with their social workers, and social workers just hold their hands up and say, I recognise this is costing more money, but we don't have it in the budget.
Looking after an ageing population is a pressing problem. Who pays and how much has always been contentious. The government says an announcement on a new social care plan is expected in the spring. Critics say successive prime ministers have only ever recycled washed-up ideas. Phil Bodmer, BBC Look North, Harrogate.
Well, as Phil mentioned there, it's not a new problem, is it? Earlier I spoke to Una Smith. She's the Chief Executive of Skills for Care. It's the social care workforce development body in England. Now, they publish annual reports looking at the workforce. I asked her what their research tells us about the state of the adult social care system.
So last year we saw a reduction in the number of people starting in social care roles, so a 7% reduction in the number of people starting, and we saw similar levels of turnover. While we have increasing demand, we have more people who need social care, we have fewer people coming into the roles, and we know that we're going to need even more people in the future.
480,000 in the next 10 years is what you're predicting. How are you going to fill those positions if you're struggling to get the staff as it is now?
There's a number of things that we need to do, starting with making sure that people understand the role of people working in social care and value it, and value the lives of our older population and disabled population, because once we value social care, we're more likely to value people working in the roles. And then we've got to look at making social care.
It's hard to see that value when you can earn more and have less responsibility working in a shop or working in a bar. Does there need to be a complete overhaul in how we view the job?
There has to be an overhaul in how we view social care and how we view the roles, and we have to reward the roles better in terms of pay, in terms of development. And we know that people are less likely to leave social care than other low-paid roles, but we've really got to make sure that we're making those people feel valuable, and that we're helping them see the progression opportunities in social care.
And how do you do that?
I think a workforce strategy is really important. I think understanding that we're going to need to make the roles more attractive when we're up against other higher paid jobs, and recognising the complexity of the roles. These are highly, highly skilled roles, and we need to value them as such.
Una Smith, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this week's Politics North is taking an in-depth look at our social care system with a special programme from a care home in Scarborough. You can catch it on BBC One at 10 a.m. on Sunday, or catch up on the BBC iPlayer. Former England captain Michael Vaughan says a disciplinary hearing into allegations of racism at Yorkshire Cricket Club is a terrible look for the sport. Vaughan is accused of making a racist comment towards Azim Rafiq and 3 other Asian players in 2009. He says he completely and categorically denies the allegations. A warning that Matt Graveling's report contains flash photography.
Michael Vaughan captained England in more than 50 tests over a 5-year period, but it was before a T20 match for Yorkshire back in 2009 that he's been accused of racism. Vaughan categorically denies directing a statement towards former Yorkshire spinner Azim Rafiq and 3 Asian players, which says, "There's too many of you lot, we need to have a word about it." Now, this afternoon, a lawyer for the England and Wales Cricket Board read out a number of historic tweets posted by Vaughan in 2010, one of which said, "There's not many English people living in London, I need to learn a new language." Today, Vaughan said that was unacceptable, and he has since apologised many times. He also reached out to Rafiq to try and work things out. He said, "It's not been easy for anybody, this. It's not the right process to deal with word against word comments from 14 years ago. He added, "Ex-teammates fighting it out over hearsay is a terrible look for the game." He said, "I've always believed and championed that the fundamental aspect of a dressing room is culture, and it has to be inclusive." These proceedings will continue on Tuesday with closing submissions.
You're watching Friday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. A year after fleeing the war in Ukraine, how one woman has restarted her career as a journalist in York. But before that, a mother from Sheffield who was hit by a fascia board which fell from a school building is calling for more funding to be given to schools. Carla Ashman was waiting to pick up her 2 boys from Dore Primary School when it happened. She was left with cuts and grazes and a black eye and tinnitus. Here's Mark Hensel.
Really scary, yeah, really scary, not knowing what was happening. But also because the piece of fascia board was so big, it was maybe kind of 12, 15 foot long, and it had come from the top of the building as well. That was quite an impact.
A month and a half on, and Carla is still feeling the effects of being struck on the head by a fascia board at her children's school. She was about to collect her boys when it happened. Carla blames the government.
The safety of children should never be compromised because of lack of funding. If it had blown off at lunchtime that day, that's where the children play. So it could have, if that would have hit a child or children, then the outcome could have been really different.
Carla's local MP is going to meet the Education Minister about the incident.
A lot of things that are kind of going wrong in school buildings that need serious attention, but there just isn't the funding available to schools to do that locally. So it does need government intervention to ensure that our schools are safe, and that no other child or student or teacher or parent will face what Carla's had to go through.
A Department for Education spokesperson said, "We take the safety of pupils and staff extremely seriously. The department works closely with schools to ensure all buildings are well maintained and safe." Meanwhile, Dore Primary School says it took immediate remedial steps to avoid further incidents in consultation with the council's health and safety team. Carla believes unless schools are given more money to maintain their buildings, someone else could be next. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, Dore in Sheffield.
A 29-year-old man who was fatally stabbed in Leeds yesterday has been named by police. Peter Was, who's from Roundhay, was attacked in Chapeltown yesterday afternoon and later died in hospital. Police were given extra stop and search powers in the area following the stabbing, with the investigation continuing. A court has heard a man accused of murdering his 20-year-old niece in Bradford asked police what the sentence was for someone in his position. Sumaya Begum's body was found wrapped in a rug on land near Fitzwilliam Street in July. She'd been missing for 11 days. Bradford Crown Court heard she had previously refused a forced marriage. Mohammed Taruz Khan denies murder, with the trial continuing. The family of a young musician from Bradford who died suddenly have launched a campaign to raise awareness of the rare condition that killed him. Peter Doody was just 21 when his parents found him dead at their home in Wyke. He died from a condition called sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. An inquest found that although his death could not have been prevented, the coroner raised concerns over how patients were advised about the condition. His parents want people with epilepsy to be warned about the risk of sudden death. If you've got tickets for Glastonbury this summer, lucky you. The legendary Sheffield rock stars Arctic Monkeys will be there headlining this summer. They'll top the Pyramid stage bill, marking their third headline appearance at the Somerset Festival, which takes place in June. The band are already set to play 2 huge shows in their home city over the summer. South Yorkshire Police are to start a week-long crackdown on poor motorway driving, concentrating on the M1. Called Operation Freeway, it'll see specialist police vehicles deployed to catch drivers using phones, failing to wear seatbelts and not being in full control of their vehicles. Kathy Killick has spent the morning on patrol to see how the operation works.
On the road again, the police car that thinks it's a truck. Unmarked and unobtrusive, the vehicle works in tandem with a traffic car to crack down on motorway drivers breaking the law. Its elevated driving position allows the officers on board to monitor drivers and film them too.
We're looking out for drivers not wearing seatbelts, drivers using handheld mobile phones, not vehicles that are being driven without being in proper control. Just anything that will adversely affect road safety on the strategic road network.
A GoPro is used to capture footage which can then be used in court. Previous operations have seen some eye-wateringly reckless behaviour by motorists. Remember, they're travelling at 70 miles per hour.
The driver is eating a sandwich, both hands off the wheel. I've captured it on video. Driver's holding it in his left hand and he's clearly talking into the phone. We've got another one using his mobile telephone. It's the speedy recovery truck.
On the M1 today, it's not long before the cab team spots an HGV driver they're not happy with.
This truck that we're next to now, the driver's not wearing his seatbelt, wearing a t-shirt, mate.
Yes, I'm behind him, just going to light it up.
The patrol car catches up and signals for the driver to pull over. His failure to clunk-click for this trip results in a £100 fine. But that didn't seem to make an impression.
When he was about to set off, I kind of had to remind him to put his seatbelt on before he set off. Otherwise, he'll just continue to drive without a seatbelt on, I believe.
It may seem a minor offence, but the consequences can be anything but.
I would actually say go and have a conversation with the families of the people that have died in tragic accidents on the road network, particularly at the speeds that people travel on the motorway, using a mobile phone, not being in proper control of your vehicle. It's dangerous, there's no two ways about it.
Last year there were nearly 75,000 incidents on the M1. That's more than 200 every day. Sadly, driver behaviour is to blame for thousands of crashes on this road, some of them fatal. Operation Freeway aims to change our behaviour for the better and halve the death rate from crashes on motorways by 2025.
But we all need to play our part, respecting the laws that keep us safe. Cathy Killick, BBC Look North.
We're going to introduce you now to a woman who fled Ukraine a year ago, who's managed to restart her career as a journalist in North Yorkshire. Anna Gorozenko moved to York with her daughter in May last year. She says she wants to tell the stories of other Ukrainian people who live here, and she's now able to do that with her local BBC radio station. Beth Parsons has been to meet her.
Before the war started in Ukraine, Anna Gorozenko was a TV journalist and an author. But when the Russian invasion started, she and her daughter Yara fled the country, leaving behind their husband and father.
It was hard. We were on roads, and all time it was a lots of planes, a lots of rockets.
Anna arrived in Poppleton near York in May last year, setting up a new life with their host family. Yara started school, and after a while, Anna started writing again.
My readers sent me photos of my book when they are in bomb shells, sitting in the basements, and I understand that I must create new book for them.
She's also now working as a freelance reporter for BBC Radio York.
She was so full of enthusiasm. She was desperate to carry on her work as a journalist, and I just thought she was an amazing person and that she could really help us find some different voices that we've not heard before.
I've got an incredible story for you this morning.
This month, she covered a story about teenager Rostislav Mishenko, who's just won a European kettlebell lifting competition, despite having no coach to help him.
This story is a good illustration how Ukrainian people, they can win in different ways, not only on battlefield.
And when I met Anna this month, she was interviewing people in the Poppleton volunteer group, getting their stories of supporting Ukrainian refugees.
We're all the same type of people, wanting the same thing. And if we were on the other side of this situation, then they would help us.
What I've seen most is the determination of the Ukrainians who've come over. I was running classes at home, and they're all now working and they've all got jobs, and that's down to their hard work, their motivation, their enthusiasm.
What would you like to happen over the next year? Where would you like to be this time next year?
I hope that we can return to home and I can see my husband. I very missed him.
I too.
I very missed my mother and mother-in-law and my friends.
Being able to carry on as a journalist is providing Anna with a new set of goals. But no matter how many stories she can find to tell, the one she really wants to write is about the journey back home. Beth Parsons, BBC Look North, York.
Yeah, let's hope she can be reunited with her husband soon. Now, I'm glad to see this chap's wearing his helmet, because this skateboarder from Moulton in North Yorkshire is to attempt a world record for the longest continuous skate. Ryan Swain aims to cover more than 300 miles in 24 hours, skating through the night. He's taking on the challenge to raise money for the charity Mind. Olivia Richwold has been along to meet him.
I am excited, I'm scared, I'm nervous. No UK skateboarder has ever attempted this challenge before, and on May the 8th I'll be attempting to skateboard over 300 miles at Elvington Airfield in York.
This is Ryan Swain. The 32-year-old DJ from Moulton in North Yorkshire is attempting a world record for the most miles travelled on a skateboard in 24 hours.
This technique is called scogging.
Ryan has ADHD and has been helped by the charity Mind. He hopes to smash the current world record of 262 miles achieved by an American in Florida 9 years ago.
To achieve this record, I need to be hitting nearly 13 to 14 miles per hour. It's the equivalent of 13 full marathons in less than 24 hours. I think I'm going to have to do nearly 175 laps of the airfield and supercar track there, which is about 3.4 miles. It's also about building strength, stamina, and obviously putting myself through endurance.
It'll be an exhausting and potentially dangerous challenge through the night. But Ryan has been training hard and has already raised more than £2,000 for the charity.
If you look at skateboarding, it teaches you that when you get knocked down, you get back up and you try again. It's the same with mental health disorders. And I also want to sort of get a message across to anybody that's maybe enduring a mental health disorder that you can still achieve your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, and the mental health disorder doesn't define you. I love skateboarding, but you know, nobody knows what the weather's going to be like, so it could literally be surfing yet that I break the record in if it's raining on the day. But either way that I look at it, I'm going to go and smash it and hopefully bring this one back, not just for Great Britain, not just for Mind, but for Yorkshire as well.
Gosh, that's a heck of a challenge. Good luck to you, Ryan. And finally this evening, here's some motivation to get you down the gym this weekend. The world's largest indoor rowing competition has taken place in Leeds today. Potential future Olympians and para-athletes are taking part in the National Junior Indoor Rowing Championships. Paul Ogden reports the sport is actively looking for more competitors at all levels. Take a look.
70 rowing machines for 800 competitors, all in one building in South Leeds today. Showcasing the rowing talents of 11 to 18-year-olds, this was the first ever National Junior Indoor Rowing Championships North to give it its official title, mirroring the Southern event in London.
We look after about 7,000 students that get to row, and yeah, we look for the sort of the big medalists, but ultimately we're after the kid that would never get to go to a national competition in any sport, having that opportunity. And that's what this is all about today, a national level competition of national significance that your everyday student can attend.
I started doing the rowing on Wednesdays after school, and I found it interesting, so I started to join it more.
Why did you pick rowing amongst all the sports you might have tried?
Because I want to try new sports and be more involved in them.
Today's mass rowing race was not, however, just a search for the next Team GB Olympians. Race categories included events for young people with special educational needs or a disability, where there is still plenty of scope to recruit new talent.
It started off just a bit of fitness, and then I started doing it like, oh, this is fun. I'll do this for a bit, and I'm here.
You drive yourself very hard to perform. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
You can push yourself too hard, which that's causes injuries, obviously, but it helps the performance.
Not everyone can be a Paralympian, okay, but we can send people towards community clubs, get them rowing. I guess specifically we're looking for women wheelchair users to come and try our sport. We're very short of them. We have Lauren Rolls at the top of the Paralympic pyramid, but really there's very little underneath that. So that would be a great find.
Whether in relays or individual battle, the to and fro toil of rowing will, for many, remain an important part of their young lives beyond today's national championships. Or will it?
There's about 22 other people rowing at the same time, and you just get that weird feeling where you're like, am I going to win? Am I not? Am I going to get first, second, third?
You know, Team GB is looking for new athletes of the future. Is that you?
Probably not.
Why'd you say that?
I want to be a real estate agent.
In rowing or real estate, the young lady and her peers will certainly be competitive. Paul Ogden, BBC Look North, Leeds.
I think that'll be more up my street as well, being an estate agent rather than a rower. It's a lot on the upper body, that, isn't it?
It should be your legs, Amy.
They're after well, this is the problem, the coordination of arms and legs at the same time.
Maybe not for us.
Not for us at all. They're after new recruits. Count us out.
It's looking cold as we head through next week.
It's
so a
cold
blast
tonight, though, isn't it?
It is cool, but it will be very cold next week. A shock to the system, I think. An Arctic blast from about Tuesday onwards. More on that in a moment. Let's have a little look at some of the pictures that you've been sending in because it was a grey old start near Knaresborough this morning. I thought the second picture looked like a picture postcard. Isn't that lovely? Pateley Bridge, but quite dark skies overhead there. Not quite as grey over Leeds Dock this afternoon, but cloudy nevertheless, and that certainly was the scene for most of Yorkshire and the North Midlands through today. You can keep your pictures coming in to the Weather Watchers page, bbc.co.uk/weatherwatchers. You can tweet me at Keely Donovan. I'm on Instagram, @Keely.Donovan. So yes, some cold weather on the cards, but before then, some quiet weather this weekend. And Amy's right, there is a chilly feel to the air. There's also a lot of cloud around. Tomorrow, a few light showers, but for most places, it is going to stay largely dry. And the weather is largely settled due to high pressure. By Sunday, high pressure over Greenland will mean a more northerly flow, and we'll keep that northerly flow through next week with overnight sharp frost, the risk of ice, and some snow showers in the forecast as well. Potentially something a little bit more disruptive later on in the week. Keep tuned for that. A lot of cloud out there today. This is the satellite picture from earlier, and that's the way we start this evening, with a lot of cloud. Whether we keep the cloud in all places overnight will have an effect on the temperature. So a lot of cloud out there, but there may well be some breaks. At the moment, the most favoured spots is the Pennine Chain. And where you have the cloud cover, temperatures should stay at around freezing or a couple of degrees above. If we get any lengthy breaks, temperatures will dip below freezing. Most prone spots along that Pennine Chain. A quick look at the high water times then. Your next high water in Filey will be at 2:46, in Bridlington at 3 o'clock. So tomorrow, a fair amount of cloud. There will be some brighter skies at times. We might find through the afternoon a little bit of brightness and a few light showers spreading inland, but they will be very hit and miss. Most places staying dry and avoiding those showers. Temperatures up at around 8 or 9 degrees. Getting cooler on Sunday, a lot of clouds, some patchy rain and drizzle for Sunday. There might even be a little bit of sleet or wet snow for the hills. The same can be said for Monday, and then much colder from Tuesday onwards with snow showers and overnight sharp frosts. Amy?
Snow showers in March. We have had it before, though. My little girl was born on a snowy day at the end of March.
Lovely.
Thermals on next week, gang. That's it from us. Thanks, Keely. I'm here for your late news, so if you fancy spending your Friday night with me, tune in. 10:30. Bye-bye.
What an offer.
What an offer.